Thanks for tuning in to the very first episode of Howe's Things, a podcast from the David A. Howe Public Library. Now, maybe you're a longtime All the Books listener and you're just tuning back in to hear what comes next, or maybe this is your very first time listening to the David A. Howe Public Library podcast. Either way, welcome. Maybe it's none of those things, though. Maybe you're just here for today's special guest. I know that's why I'm here. Beau Hutchings, welcome back to the David A. Howe Public Library.
Hello, thank you.
Are you in a Christmas mood? Are you feeling cozy?
I am feeling super cozy thanks to our, third year
It is.
in a row?
Yeah, it is.
This cozy Christmas tradition.
Yeah. Technically, this is your fourth year participating in a library holiday extravaganza. Our third year reading a Christmas book together. But we're getting ahead of yourselves. Your people sent along a bio that I'm told that I have to read verbatim. And I hope that you got the sparkling water and the only blue M&Ms that you requested for your dressing room. Did those all come through?
We don't need to talk about that right now.
Okay, all right. Beau Hutchings is currently living in Marshall, Michigan, where he's originally from. Hey, I'm from nearby. Yeah. After 12 years of living in New York City and pursuing musical theater professionally, he's taken a job at Star Commonwealth. Star Commonwealth is a nonprofit that offers counseling and treatment to youth who have experienced trauma. Star believes in building resilience in children and helping them find their greatness, a mission that Beau firmly believes. He's enjoyed a wonderful run in the theater world, having performed in 3 Broadway national tours. I saw you in one of those.
Which one?
2? 1? I saw you in Wizard of Oz.
I did that twice. So
well,
yes.
But I saw you you were a crow. Said the scarecrow, wow, that one.
And we actually kept that phrase in.
Yeah, we went
legit.
Up. Yeah.
You saw me in that, and then did you see the other Wizard of Oz I did, the Andrew Lloyd Webber one?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you were ever that close to me again, because you were right in Rochester for that one.
That was in my contract.
Was it?
Not be too close.
You had that penciled in? That's hurtful.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's more. An international tour in Europe, as well as a 6-month stint on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. Wow. I bet you got your sea legs. 6 months. Is that true? 6 months on a cruise ship?
Wow. Yes, it is true. And 6 months, believe it or not, did not feel very long because generally those contracts are 9 months. So I feel like I kind of lucked out.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It was the closing. It was the last year of Chicago, the musical on Royal Caribbean.
All right.
And they made it a shorter contract because they were going to throw it overboard and bring Mamma Mia on.
Wow.
Which is still there if cruise ships are even a thing right now.
Yeah, well, the elderly love Mamma Mia. Hey, do you think that Chicago the movie would have been better if Travolta had played the Richard Gere role as originally intended?
I didn't know that he was originally intended, but did you not like Richard Gere in that role?
I mean, I thought Richard Gere kind of smirked his way through that whole thing, but I would have been all down for a Travolta, though.
I mean, I was smirking all the way with Richard Gere, I guess.
Okay.
But I would like to see what Travolta's got as far as the Billy Flynn of it all.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say.
Okay. All right. Listen, there's more. He's also an adjudicator for dance competitions and often guest teaches for studios in Southwest Michigan. Adjudicator, does that mean you like judge?
I do, yes.
I, for many years, judged for a scholarship, and they always threw out the lowest score from the judges, and I feel like none of my scores ever made it in because I was definitely the harsh judge.
I'm sure you were.
I had to judge puppetry. I don't know why, because I have a theater background, and I would judge like that kind of thing. I had to judge puppetry, and it was like these kids, they had no business holding a puppet, Well,
no offense, but do you have any business judging puppetry?
No, that's my point. They were like, well, you've done plays and directed plays. Well, you could judge puppets. And I was like, I really don't think so. But then I saw these kids with the puppets, though, and like they couldn't even hold the puppet upright,
Well, that's a problem. I mean, that's pretty much the whole job.
Well, listen, it was very low stakes, but I wasn't going to let anybody get away with anything. That was my... Okay?
I bet.
All right, anyways, listen, there's more. Library regulars might know Beau as the Nutcracker Prince, a role he's played in the Nancy Howe Auditorium for the past 3 years. Not this year, though.
That's right.
Because there is no Nutcracker this year. Although, we did some digital Nutcracker workshops. So,
you did?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Oh, what'd you do?
Yep. Well, we did one where I think it was limited to 6 people could actually come to the library and learn some of the choreography with Sarah. We did that. And then there's going to be like a digital one that's coming up as well. So we're trying to still do some Nutcrackery type things because like it's an institution,
Well, yeah, it's that time of year. We need the Nutcracker.
Absolutely. So, I mean, at least we have you here. But there's more in the bio. Hold on. He also was a regular contributor to the All the Book Show, where he appeared in 3 episodes, 2 of which were covering some pretty horrendous Christmas novels. One was not a Christmas novel, but we'll get into that. I think you probably, for my money, you peaked 20 years ago in the role of Sidney Purvis in the 2000 Marshall Civic Youth Theater production of Meet Me in St. Louis. That's where we met, Beau. That's where this magic began.
I know, and I feel like we talk about this every year.
We do, and people can't forget. But this year is special because this is 20 year. This is our 20-year anniversary.
But who's counting?
Well, I just did. I told you. But to be fair, it's an even number, so it's really easy.
Oh, yeah.
2000.
Right.
Yeah.
20,000, yeah. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I didn't get you anything. I didn't get you anything, if that's what you're wondering.
I would never expect that.
Okay. It's a Christmas season, Beau.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Season.
Thank you. Are you in the zone? Have you done any Christmassy type things? I know you have your Christmas tree up. You told me that.
Well, December and winter, this is all my favorite time of year.
Okay.
I love Christmas, I love snow, and I love the whole shtick. So, yes, I'm definitely in the Christmas spirit.
Okay.
I've already decorated my new home, and it's feeling real nice and cozy here.
Wow. Okay. Have you gotten to any Christmas movies or anything like that? Have you broken that out yet?
Not yet, but I do want to watch. Have you seen ads for Jingle Jangle on Netflix?
Yes. Yeah.
I want to see that. It's gotten great reviews.
Really?
And it's exciting because it's a new Christmas movie. It's a musical, and it looks really interesting. So that's going to be, I'm going to jump into that one. And I do think I want to kind of dive into like schmaltzy Christmas movies, maybe Lifetime-esque.
Yeah.
Kind of to go with my book club book here.
Absolutely. So. Well, I can tell you because my wife and I just did this, but you can get a 1-week free trial of the Friendly streaming app, and it's got all the Hallmark Christmas movies on it. All of them, Beau.
Do you watch them?
We've watched a couple. One was called Christmas Perfection. I think this was actually Lifetime. Are you familiar with this movie?
No, it sounds wonderful.
It's about a lady who's not too thrilled with her life. Her parents are divorced. She's got a crappy job. People are mean. And then one day she wakes up in her perfect Irish Christmas village and just lives her life in an Irish Christmas village where every day is Christmas. And her parents are back together and people are nice to her and she's fine with it. That's the thing. It's not a Groundhog Day situation. She is fine with it.
I feel like they are all just kind of fine with it.
Christmas Perfection.
Movies, which I love.
Yeah. I feel like in those movies you don't want to be like the mom of 2 really cute kids because you're going to die if you make it to the screen at all.
Spoiler alert.
I just think, because you got to have a single dad. You got to have a dad like tucking, the kids aren't ready for me to date. I can't, even though this baker is perfect for me and I'm a journalist from a small town newspaper.
I want to know who comes up with the titles of these movies because, they're at the bottom of the barrel when they come up with, what was it? Christmas Perfection.
Yeah, because it doesn't tell you anything. It could have been like Christmas Village or...
Well, next year it'll be Perfect Christmas.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, the opportunities are endless, apparently.
We did watch one called Deliver by Christmas, which I have to admit I did like. It was kind of like a She Loves Me, You've Got Mail situation where they didn't realize that person was the person they were talking to on the phone. And that one kind of got me. Deliver by Christmas.
So it's not a pregnancy story?
There was no pregnancy involved. No, none of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't no.
Well, I misinterpreted that title.
You did. Yeah, you jumped right to pregnancy, which it took me a minute, but I understand because of Deliver.
Yes.
You were thinking Deliver. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Beau, have you read a Christmas book this year? I sure hope so, because that's the premise of this episode.
I was going to say, was I supposed to?
I
did. Do we want to get into it?
Yeah. Well, let me refresh your memory about some experiences you've had as a holiday contributor here at the David A. Howe Public Library. In 2018, you read Snow Way Out by Christine Hewsome. It was the first of the Snow Globe mysteries. And Beau, what holiday was that set on?
Halloween.
Halloween. And did they ever make it to Christmas at all?
No.
Okay. All right. And the next year, you read Ghosts of Christmas Past by Angie Fox. Do you have fond memories of Ghosts of Christmas Past by Angie Fox?
I actually remember the Snow Globe one better.
Really?
I think I did because that was so shockingly not a Christmas story that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
We were messaging the other day and we were kind of, reminiscing about Podcast Past.
As you do.
And you mentioned some of the fun little best ofs of my book last year and bringing it back to me. But yes, now that I think about it, I remember that one.
As I recall in Snow Way Out, the Halloween mystery that had nothing to do with Christmas, even though it was about snow globes, you found it kind of ghoulish. That they were kind of like, yes, this person died, but we're all friends who work together.
And that's the same theme I've noticed in this book I read this year.
Really? Well,
just kind of like the casual aspect of all the deaths in the town.
Huh. Okay.
I guess it's a way for the author to kind of cope and to kind of comfort her audience, their audience, rather, to make them feel, to not want to like close the book. To be like, oh, well, I guess if the characters are okay with it, I can be okay with it, you know?
Well, last year I read, I guess mine have been cat themed. I didn't really set out for them to be cat themed, but they were, because in 2018 I read Santa Claus by Rita Mae Brown and Sneaky Pie Brown, her cat. And that was one where the animals actually talked and like helped solve the mystery. And the whole thing was about like a group of monks who moved to this small town. There was a lot of like it was a big like a sexual reveal, and it was like, what, you know? And then the next year was 9 Lives of Christmas by Sheila Roberts, and this was about a hunky fireman and a lady who works at a pet store, and that was also had a weird sexual element to it because it was half like a cheesy Hallmark movie and half like a smutty romance novel. So it was totally very strange.
It was very horny, I remember.
Yes. I think you're right. Yeah. What have you brought to the table this year?
Okay, well, also kind of romance-esque. I wouldn't say as risque as your book of last year.
How could it be?
This one was called The 12 Sleighs of Christmas.
Wow. Mine also has slaying in the title.
Oh, yeah. What's yours called?
Mine is called Apple Cider Slaying by Julie Ann Lindsay. It's the first in a new series.
Do I spy a cat?
There is a cat, yes. Yeah.
We're sticking with the theme.
Yeah.
That's funny. We both picked Slay.
I know. Who is yours by? Who's the author of your book?
It's by Jacqueline Frost, which I am guessing is a pen name.
You don't think a lady who writes romance Christmas novels last name just happened to be Frost?
I do not.
You don't think so? Okay. I want to hear everything, so don't leave anything out. Okay. But before we get into that, I just need to know one thing. How was your experience reading it?
So I have to say that reading these books has become kind of part of my holiday routine as of late, and as of the last, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I've really come to expect this moment in my life and really enjoy it, and I have you to blame for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, yeah,
you're welcome. Okay.
I did. I enjoyed reading this book because, as I said, I just moved to a new place and I kind of Christmas-fied it.
Yeah.
To decorate it to my liking and just have everything where I want it to be. And it's just the whole experience of just getting all nice and cozy up on my couch and reading this book I look forward to it.
Okay. Well, that's nice. How did you find it? Because in years past, I have found books for you. I've sent you books and been like, how about this one? This year you were like, no, I've graduated to picking my own. So how did you come across this book?
It was in my price range.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fair enough. Remind me of the title again.
The 12 Sleighs of Christmas.
Okay.
And it, I think I did a search because I on Barnes & Noble Nook, I have a Nook, and I searched for like ebooks, and I narrowed it down to this one. I think this one was a series. It's part of the series.
Yeah, it's the first book. It's the first book in the Christmas Tree Farm Mystery Series, actually.
That's it. So like there was this one, and I think they had one that was a little bit later, a little bit more recent, maybe 2018.
Yes.
I was maybe going to read that one. I said, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to start at the beginning of the series.
Start at number 1.
I have a feeling I'll end at number 1.
Yeah.
But I thought I wanted to originally do it right and start here. And I'm glad I did because, I also knew that they were establishing the characters. And this follows a breakup at the beginning. And I wanted to see where this character started.
Yeah.
As opposed to where she ends. So.
Well, I remember you got burnt on that a little bit last year because you were kind of jumped into the middle and you kept to keep being like, I assume they cover this in other books. So
yes, you're right.
You learn. Do you have the synopsis handy that you could tell me this, or would you like me to read it for you?
I don't have it handy, so you read it.
When Holly White's fiance cancels their Christmas Eve wedding, cancels their Christmas Eve wedding with less than 2 weeks to go, Holly heads home with a broken heart. Lucky for her, home in historic Mistletoe, Maine. Is that real? Did you look that up? Is there a real place?
I kept meaning to, and I forgot. I'll do it right now. Keep
Okay,
reading, and I'll
you fact
look it
check.
up.
You fact check. Lucky for her, her home in historic Mistletoe, Maine is magical during Christmas time. Well, it's called mistletoe. Exactly what the doctor prescribed, except her plan to drown her troubles in peppermints and snickerdoodles is upended when local grouch and president of the Mistletoe Historical Society, Margaret Fenwick, is bludgeoned. Oh, we have a bludgeoning. And left in the sleigh display at Reindeer Games, Holly's family tree farm. Mine is also set on a family farm, not a tree farm. Well, it is a tree farm because it's an apple orchard.
And it also has sleigh in the title. Did we read
does.
the same book?
Maybe. When the murder weapon is revealed as one of the wooden stakes, holy mackerel, used to identify trees on the farm, Sheriff Evan Gray turns to Holly's father, Bud, and the Reindeer Games staff. And it doesn't help that Bud and the reindeer keeper were each seen arguing with Margaret just before her death. But Holly knows her father and is determined to exonerate him. The jingle bells are ringing, the clock is ticking, and if Holly doesn't watch out, she'll end up on Santa's naughty list in 12 Sleighs of Christmas. Jacqueline Frost's Jolly series debut. That doesn't sound jolly.
Did that excite you, though?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think it's the way you read it that excited me all over
really?
again.
Well, acting. Yeah. I, too, have an acting background, as you'll recall.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
Wasn't aware.
Well, I never worked on a cruise ship.
That's real
so
acting.
That's probably...
You have to act like the set isn't falling on top of you.
Right. What was the show? It was Chicago that you were in on the cruise ship?
Oh, yeah. Razzle Dazzle.
How was the food?
In Chicago?
On the cruise ship.
I mean, it was great.
Okay.
It was fried food, cakes, it was awesome.
What were the crew quarters like? Was it like, were you below the sea level?
We were at sea level.
At sea level, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, the crew mess, as we call it, was the best in the whole Royal Caribbean fleet because it was the biggest ship. It was on the Allure of the Seas, which was the biggest of the fleet.
Oh.
Awesome salad bar. We had a great menu in that in the crew mess. But aside from that, we got to eat like on the Promenade and in the guest areas too. And
yes.
the food was amazing.
Were you ever there around Christmas?
Yeah, we were there on Christmas.
Really? What was that situation?
It was weird.
I bet.
We actually had Christmas off, which is regardless of like what day it is, whether it's a holiday or not, your show, it doesn't affect your show. You're going to do the show no matter what.
Okay.
But where our performances landed, we did not have a show on Christmas. We did not have a show on Christmas Eve, and we did not have a show on New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
So lucky that
That's
year.
Great, yeah.
But what we did, the head of our show decided to do was have us sing Christmas carols on the Promenade, which was actually it was nice. It was nice to do something
nice.
when you're away from your family. A couple of years before, they did caroling on the Promenade, and they're all sitting there singing with their binders and their notebooks or whatever. And the guests that have obviously chosen to be on that ship for a reason for Christmas are walking by, enjoying the caroling and singing. And all of a sudden, they see out of the corner of their eye, they see this woman just like darting down the Promenade, like running super fast.
Okay.
And they're singing, you're like, oh, come, all ye faithful.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this policeman just jumps on this woman and tackles her down. And she got carried away to the cruise jail.
Wow.
Because she was shoplifting on the Promenade on Christmas.
On Christmas. Well, maybe it was a Christmas present. Maybe she was trying to buy a Christmas present.
Fair enough. Maybe it was
you don't
for the police
know.
officer.
Maybe. It could have been. All right. I just have one more question about your book before we move on to my synopsis. It's called The 12 Sleighs of Christmas. Do we have the full 12 murders in this book?
No, and that is very misleading. There are 12. It starts on the 12th day, and you would think every day, new murder, but that does not come into play.
I mean, the title would have worked at any point. If there are 3 murders, you could just say, like, on the 3rd sleigh of Christmas, right there. I mean, that's a good title. Why do you have to say 12?
Well, it was totally wasted on.
I guess. Were you expecting a serial killer situation?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of part of the reason why I read it. I love serial killers.
Yeah. Oh, really?
No.
Oh, sorry. All right. My book is called Apple Cider Slaying. It's a cider shop mystery. It is the first in a new series. It's by Julianne Lindsay. I was just going to tell you the synopsis, but it's so full of apple puns on the back that I want to read it to you verbatim, if you'll indulge me.
Yes,
Apples are at the core.
Mm-hmm.
Core?
Mm-hmm.
Right there. It's okay. Apples are at the core of the family business run by Winona May Montgomery. Could you say that with your southern accent?
Winona May Montgomery.
I think I need more in the Winona.
Winona May Montgomery.
Yep, that's it. And Granny Smythe But this year's crop is unseasonably ripe with murder.
Ooh.
One rotten apple. Blossom Valley, West Virginia is home to Smythe Orchards, Winnie and her granny's beloved 25-acre farm and family business. But any way you slice it, it's struggling. Mm-hmm. That's why they're trying to drum up... Is that one? I don't think so. They're trying to drum up business with the first annual Christmas at the Orchard, a good old-fashioned holiday festival with enough delicious draw to satisfy apple-picking locals and cider-loving tourists alike, until the whole endeavor takes a sour turn when the body of Nadine Cooper, Granny's longtime grudge-holding nemesis, is found. And this is a little dark, so if you have children listening, please send them out of the room. Granny's longtime grudge-holding nemesis is found lodged in the apple press.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, with Granny, the number one suspect, Winnie, is hard-pressed to prove her innocence before the real killer delivers another murder. Oh, and as a bonus, it includes recipes.
That's the thing. Your book always has recipes.
It does.
Right?
It includes recipes. Yeah, so you can make some of these. If you want.
Now, do you have to include the granny in the cider, or
you do? You do have to. You know the thing with this book? Everyone called this woman Granny. Like everyone, the authorities, adults, they'd be like, "Well, what's your granny gonna do?" Or, "I'm sorry, but your granny is under arrest." Always with the granny.
Like, why are you gonna call her Granny?
Don't you think that's kind of weird?
You know what else is kind of weird?
Tell me.
Did you love the Golden Girls?
Yes, of course.
I'm sure you still do.
I would watch it right now. Yeah.
How old do you think Rue McClanahan was in that series?
Oh boy, not as old as you want. Late 40s, probably.
Yeah, to 50.
Yeah,
which doesn't seem old at all.
No. You got a birthday coming up though, so you're probably thinking about your own mortality.
Well, I do got the Rue McClanahan cut this year.
Yeah, you do. You're rocking that Rue. I like it. I would say, here's the thing. Early on in this book, I was like, oh no, I feel like maybe this book is too good. Like maybe it's not going to be really fun to talk about because it's just like
that's something different.
A good mystery. That's what I thought too. By the time I got to the end, I never had worried. I never needed to worry.
How long is your book? I know that's such a tacky question.
It actually was kind of long. I think it's 312 pages.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It was a little on the long side.
Mine was 230.
Yeah.
Which felt about 30 pages too long.
Yeah, you could have cut 100 pages out of this book. Absolutely. Only 3 of those are recipes, so.
That's the thing I liked about last year. Did you assign my book last year?
I did.
Did you suggest it?
I suggested it,
That one was like 110 pages.
Holiday novella, yeah.
It was. I loved that. This one felt a little lengthy. So when I said I enjoyed it, there were times where, of course, I was kind of like, all right.
Okay. All right. Beau, let's dive into it. Set the scene for me. How does your book begin?
Okay, well, first of all, so you did want to know, is there a mistletoe, Maine?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
No, there is not.
Yeah, I figured.
But there is a mistletoe in a state in the U.S. Can you imagine, or can you guess which state has a town with the name mistletoe?
Is it our home state?
No, it's not too far from our home state.
Southern,
a little bit southern.
Oh, is it Indiana?
Obviously. Southern.
Kentucky?
Yeah.
Mistletoe, Kentucky. Wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be a mecca for some people, don't you think? Like you got to make the pilgrimage to Mistletoe, Kentucky.
It is now.
Yeah.
For me.
I think so.
So this takes place in Mistletoe, Maine, which just like obviously sets that whole scene. And you can imagine what it's like. It's that ideal Christmas town. It's snowy and it's not too far from Portland, Maine, which is where our heroine hails from.
Okay.
Well, she's from Mistletoe originally, but she moved to Portland, and now she's moving back.
Oh.
So the story follows a woman named Holly White.
Okay.
And she is, it said in the description that she had just gotten dumped, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a broken engagement at the beginning.
Christmas Eve. It was a Christmas Eve wedding. That's harsh.
It was supposed to be a Christmas Eve wedding.
That's cold.
And so 12 days before Christmas, essentially, she moves back to Mistletoe.
Okay.
And her parents own the Christmas Tree Farm.
Yeah.
And there's this big event every year on the Christmas Tree Farm called Reindeer Game.
Okay.
And it's basically like 7 days before Christmas, not 12 days before Christmas. There's activities and games occurring that lead up to Christmas, the big prize.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So she's there to kind of help run the farm and stuff and just spend time with her parents. And it's her first night there that the murder occurs.
these books are kind of shockingly similar so far, if I may. So mine begins here. Apple cider slang, right? We have Winona. What is it? Winona May Montgomery. No, she goes by Winnie for all of the book, which I really think is a go by Winona, don't you think?
Really? I like Winnie.
Do you? I mean, it fits. It fits with the theme.
Winona. I love the name Winona, but it's a little bit more. I don't know. Winnie just trips off the tongue.
Yeah, you're right. It does. Well, so Winnie is back on the family Christmas tree. No, not Christmas tree. That's yours. She's back on the orchard. Smythe family orchard, right? And Granny and Grampy Smythe have run this orchard, for many, many years. Grampy died about 3 years ago. Winona has now gone back to college. She's like in her late 20s and has recently had a bad breakup with Hank, who works for, I think it's Extra Mobile. So not Exxon Mobil, but Extra Mobile, right? So I know. So Winnie is recovering from this breakup. She's in college. Granny is kind of like running the orchard into the ground. And Winnie is trying to prop things up a little bit. So it starts on Black Friday. That's when the book begins. I don't know that we ever actually make it to Christmas, also spoiler alert. But Winona is there trying to help bolster the apple orchard business past like Thanksgiving, normally when it would shut down. So she's doing this whole like holiday at the orchard, and her dream is to turn their mail pouch barn, which is just a big old barn with an ad for mail pouch cigarettes on the outside of it, which apparently is a thing, just like a mail pouch barn. She wants to turn this into like a year-round cider bar. And I know you're probably wondering, is a cider bar a real thing? No, it's not. It's nonsense. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's just a bar.
With cider that sells cider, yeah, different kinds of cider and like sweets and stuff.
Strictly cider.
Yeah, yes. So she's wanting to like renovate this and turn that into a year-round thing so they can generate income for the orchard all year round. So she's driving around in one of Grampy's many classic cars, okay? One she loves the most is called Sally, and she drives this car all around, and they're like these pristine, 1950s, 1960s cars that the family owns. You would think that if they're having money trouble, or they're trying to raise money, or they're trying to get a loan, that they might maybe like put those up for collateral or sell them. It is not hardly even touched on that that's what's going to happen. But
yeah, you think that would be the first thing to go?
Yeah, you'd think if you have like not one but three like vintage cars in like cherry condition that
you can give one up.
I think you probably could, because you'd sell it for a lot of money. But anyway, she is having the banker, Mr. Sherman, who is he's not great, come out to take a look at the buildings, take a look at the orchard, take a look at the barn that she wants the money for, because she's trying to get this loan. So he's out there doing a tour. They see some apple trees are dying, and she's like, well, that's weird. They go out to the mail pouch barn where the apple press is, and who is there but dead Nadine.
Granny.
No, Granny's fine. Granny's okay.
Oh.
But this woman is Granny's nemesis, who has already been seen on the thing, and she's a real made up. Like, she's had some work done, and that's a pivotal to the plot. She's had some work done. She dresses, very young. Thinks she's all that. Beau. She thinks she's all that.
Well, maybe she thought she was going for a facelift.
Yeah, maybe. maybe. But she's found dead, and Granny is the prime suspect, and the cops show up ready to like take Granny to the slammer.
Well, yeah, that looks bad.
Yeah. So only one murder for me so far, but it is on a family tree farm.
So did they say, the jig is up, Granny, you're coming with us?
No, but it's implied. It's implied heavily.
Interesting. Yeah. There are a lot of similarities, I have to say.
I hear it. So you've just found a body in your book, is that right?
Not yet. So Holly arrives to town, and her parents put her right to work.
Yeah.
She starts working at the cafe.
It's the holidays.
The Hearth is where her mom runs. She owns the Hearth, and she sells cookies and sweets and all these things. And it's a nice little cafe. So she's serving her cookies, and and all the people from town come in. They're like, Holly, you're back. We missed you. We're sorry about the engagement and all that. And Holly just tries to ignore it. And then she notices Margaret Fenwick.
Yeah.
Margaret Fenwick is the head of the Historical Society in Mistletoe.
Okay. Mistletoe, Maine.
you can tell that she's a little uptight, she's a little particular and a little icy, if you will.
Yeah, I will.
So she comes in and she sits down with the other gals who, tolerate her or her friends, but obviously there's some tension there, and Holly notices that right away. She can really feel it because she's been away for so long. She's like, what's going on? Why is everyone, getting so tense around Margaret?
Yeah.
She has some coarse words with her friend, and then she storms out. She storms out of the hearth, and Holly, I think, goes after her because I think she left something more or less, or wants to get something to her. And she's outside, and all of a sudden she hears a scream, and Holly runs over to this sleigh that's set in the front of the Reindeer Games Park as kind of a display.
Yeah.
And a girl has found Margaret Fenwick laying inside of the sleigh with a stake, not driven through her, but I guess she was bludgeoned over the head with.
Bludgeoned with a stake. Okay, all right.
Yeah, that seems like a missed opportunity.
I wonder if the intention was to have it be driven through her, and somebody at this, publisher was like, we can't have that kind of violence. I mean, My Lady was in an apple press, for heaven's sake. So,
they didn't have the same publisher.
I guess so. Anything goes at Kensington Publishing.
Well, this one definitely strays from any coarse topic or any kind of any kind of sticky situation. So Holly essentially finds the body and is instantly involved in the center of this story.
Okay.
She's basically ruled out as a suspect right away.
Oh, that's good.
Because she's the lead of the show.
Yeah.
But her father, however, is a prime suspect because I guess Margaret Fenwick there was some regulation on the fencing that her father had just put up that wasn't the code, or, was very particular about keeping preserving this town the way it was originally intended to be. So if things aren't to code, she's going to have some words.
Oh, sure.
So basically, the police are like, well, it was him because she tried to put the kibosh on his fence.
Yeah, of course.
And basically, this is when we meet Sheriff Gray.
Yeah.
Who is the what? The hunky.
Oh, okay. All right.
So basically, Mr. White is the prime suspect to begin with, and then Holly works really hard to exonerate him very quickly, I'd have to say, and he becomes not so much a suspect.
Oh, that was sort of made very prominent in the synopsis of the book. That's not a thing.
Not really. I have to say, it doesn't. You start to really trust the mother and father right away. My bet was on the mother. But then I was like, as squeaky clean as this book is, they're not going to make the mother.
Yeah.
After she's been the sole support, I was really kind of hoping for it.
That would have been a nice twist. Yeah, it would have been brutal.
A really nice, thick twist.
Really have to confront something there.
But spoiler alert, I don't think it's her.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, let's see. So. At the apple cider thing, of course, this is the very worst time for this kind of thing to happen to Winnie, because she and the banker discover the body together, and so he's like, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to be giving you money." And of course, nobody wants to hang out at an apple orchard where a lady was just killed in an apple press, so it's not good for business. It's not good.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Maybe you already explained this. Why does this woman and the granny have beef? What's their issue?
It's not. They don't really go into it. It's just that they've known each other for decades, and they've always just kind of not gotten along. It's just always been one of them is mad at the other one. They do not like each other. They are well known. They're nemesis. Why do you say that? Nemesis. I have to ask my wife. She's Nemesis. Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah, so it's just a well-known fact. And Nadine, the dead woman, was just seen at the orchard prior to this looking all over for Granny. And so you don't really know if Granny and Nadine ever had their conversation, but suddenly Colton Wise shows up, and he's, guess what? The hunky sheriff. He's the hunky sheriff in this town.
What?
Yes. And Winnie right away is like, how dare you accuse Granny of this? But Colton, and he says she can call him Colton. That's fine. She doesn't have to call him sheriff. She can call him Colton. That's cool.
Well, very casual.
It's casual. It's casual murder in a small town.
Where does it take place?
It's in West Virginia. It's in Blossom Valley, West Virginia.
Is that a real place?
I don't know. You want to check that?
Yeah.
Okay, you can do some fact checking. So Winnie is like, you gotta be looking at other suspects, and Colton, Sheriff Colton Wise, is like, listen, they hate each other. She was here. She was looking for your granny, and he calls her Granny, of course. So your granny is definitely the one who does it. So, like, right away, Winnie is like, all right, I'm a sleuth now, and I'm going to go find out other people who had beef with this woman. So she goes off to this, when she goes to work, she works at the Sip and Sup, a restaurant called the Sip and Sup. It's where you can sip and you can sup in whatever order you want. And she has her ex, Hank, who works for the oil company, comes in, and they have a pretty spectacular blowout about their relationship, which you never really get into. You never really learn like why they broke up and why things are so bad between them. So I don't know if they're saving that for one of the later books. In the later books, this is off topic, but the later books are expertly named. Okay, this one's just called Apple Cider Slang. The sequel is called Pulp Friction.
Ooh, whoa!
So there's your Travolta right there. And the third book, Cider Shop Rules.
What?
So
that's a little too close.
That's too much for you? Okay. Well,
come on. That's one word.
Different. You're right. Well, so is Pulp Friction, for that matter. That's one letter. You just added an R. That's all you got to do.
At least Pulp Fiction is sort of a dark comedy.
True.
Cider House Rules is that's touchy stuff.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Actually, that's a.
we don't need to play on that.
No, you're right. That's not cool. In hindsight, that's not cool. So she has this big blowout with Hank. And so right away, like, there's a volatile thing with Hank, and they want you to know that he works for the oil company. And so you just kind of wonder, like, is he the love interest? Is he a suspect? Is he involved in some way? You don't know. She finds out that Nadine, this woman, she goes in like a hiking group. And so Winnie goes on this like hiking group and is just sort of like trying to play it cool. And she finds out that the guide got into a thing with Nadine. And so she goes and basically accuses him, and he explains that it was just like a minor thing, and it's still kind of a weird situation. And so at this point you're like, so is this hiking guide? Let's call him Derek. Is this hiking guide Derek? Is he a suspect?
Hunky hiking guy?
He is a hunky hiking guy, yeah. Is he a suspect where they may be doing it? You don't know.
Wait, Derek and Nadine?
Derek and Nadine. You kind of wonder if maybe they had a thing going on. But I'm just going to tell you right now, because I think it's important for you to know. Derek never shows up again, and it's never addressed ever again. It's this one scene thing.
So they don't like flushing out the stories of these men very well, I feel like,
and it's one of the weaknesses of the book is that like every character you run into has like a name and a personality, and when you're reading a mystery, like every time you kind of file that away, and it's like, no, that's irrelevant. That could have just been shopkeeper number one. He doesn't need a name. They
didn't take very good notes as they were writing, maybe.
No. When you were doing shows where you were just in the chorus, if you happened to get assigned a name, were you excited about that?
Sidney Purvis.
Sidney Purvis, yeah, that's right. I remember I was doing 42nd Street at that same theater, and I was just chorus because I really whiffed that audition. If we're being honest, I whiffed that audition. But then I got to be the.
Rap skills?
I know. Then I got to be the waiter. Yeah. So I had a thing where I came out and was
what do you have?
Yeah, what do you have? Yeah. So like I still got a little bit of a play, but anyway. Derek is basically that kind of role. It's your Sidney Purvis, it's your 42nd Street waiter. You walk on, you walk off, but he has a name. And so that makes you think that he's important, but ultimately he's not important in the least. Some cats come into play, and I'm going to tell you about that right now, and then I want to hear what's going on with your book.
Oh, I can't wait.
Winnie's friend Dot is always rescuing cats, and she doesn't want to get attached to the cats, so she names all of the cats Kenny Rogers. And so she's like, I've got two... Look at these
that
little.
Sounds a little unstable.
This is Kenny Rogers, and Winnie's like, well, which one? And she's like, they're both Kenny Rogers. I call all my cats Kenny Rogers. Which, two things about that. One, it's funny. It's funny. But number two, if they're best friends, how does she not know that all of this woman's cats' names are Kenny Rogers? How is that new information?
How has that never come up before?
Yeah. So.
She's not a very good friend.
No. So Winnie, in the midst of trying to be a full-time college student, non-traditional, because she's like 28, trying to open her own.
That's true.
Trying to open her own cider bar, trying to prove that her granny is not a murderer, and just trying to keep her head above water, agrees to take two special needs cats named Kenny Rogers.
Why not?
So she takes these cats in, and she's getting up at all hours in the night, feeding them with a like a syringe, so these cats don't die. She decides that the girl one is going to be Dolly Parton. So for the rest of the book, you have Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. So, which made me feel Christmassy because that Kenny Rogers Dolly Parton Christmas CD is gold. It's magic.
What's the song they sing together? Come away with me
Yeah.
to another place.
Yeah.
We can rely.
That's Islands in the Stream. Islands in the Stream, weirdly enough, written by the Bee Gees. So.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
You learn something here on House Things. You do.
I never don't.
So she gets the cats. She names one Dolly, one Kenny Rogers. She takes the cats to the vet. It's a whole side story with these cats. And I'm just like, why? Why are we doing this with the cats?
Don't tell me the cats don't come into play later either.
Well, I'm not going to tell you anything about the cats, but I was very suspicious that these cats were just going to be, because you have cats on the cover, so we got to throw some cats in the story. But
so did the cats have Southern accents?
I believe they do, but you see, there was no cat co-author. There's no Sneaky Pie Brown influence here, so you don't hear the cats' dialogue.
I'm really curious as to when the recipes come into play.
Okay, so Winnie has adopted the cats. She has had a follow-up with the banker, Mr. Sherman. There's also a hunky, junior loan officer named Jake, who Dot has her eyes on, even though Dot is significantly older than Jake. Could he ever love an older woman? We'll see.
Is she a non-traditional cat owner?
No, she's pretty traditional when it comes to owning cats. Yeah, I think she fits it. She's got the sweaters and everything, so yeah, she's fine. She's fine. So that's kind of where we are, Sheriff Colton Wise, who you don't really know. I suspected the sheriff as a villain because he had just had a weird vibe. But I think he was just sexy. I think that was it. That was the weird vibe I was picking up on.
They're all sexy. And
I
forgot the name of the town, West or something Blossom, right?
Blossom Valley, West Virginia, yeah.
So there's not a Blossom Valley, but there's a Blossom Lane.
Oh, okay.
There's no Blossom named West Virginia town. So we're both living in fictional towns.
Alternates, yeah. I wonder if there's a Blossom Valley, Kentucky. That'd be interesting. So that's where my guys are. Granny is still the number one suspect. Winnie is trying to whittle them down. Granny's trying to figure out what's going on. We've adopted 2 cats. The sheriff is a hunk. The mystery continues.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. It's picking up over there.
It is. Yeah, it is. Picking up steam.
So basically, after Holly White is interviewed when the sheriff is interrogating, I guess.
Yeah.
She's interrogated.
Yeah.
She's cleared as a suspect, and she's kind of debriefing back at the hearth. And we meet some characters. We meet Cookie, who is my favorite character.
Okay.
She is a woman, I'm thinking in her mid-60s, who was this close to becoming a rockette at the radio.
Really? Oh, that's close.
So she's kind of like that showgirl, statuesque kind of vibe.
Get it.
So she didn't make it as a rockette, but she did make it as a showgirl in Las Vegas.
That's cool.
Where she made her own costumes.
Las Vegas or Reno?
Well, it sounded kind of Reno because she had to make her own costumes.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like Vegas.
Even in Las Vegas, they would have somebody else.
I think they'd provide that. Yeah, I do. Because
she's very good at stitching, and she's just very crafty and very creative, and she's just a character.
Sure,
we love her. She's basically a rich housewife in town, and she's always around. So she just has money, and she loves to she cracks jokes. She's on a 1-horse open sleigh. It's always the punchline. I don't know.
She sounds
she's
fun.
A little vampy. She's
fun.
Yeah. And then we also meet Caroline.
Can I ask you? I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can I ask you, who would you cast as Cookie if this was a movie?
Oh, good question.
Are we talking like a Bette Midler type? Are we talking a Cher?
A little bit of both.
Okay. So like Sharon Stone.
Yeah, Sharon Stone with gray hair.
Okay.
Yeah, that just think statuesque.
Okay, I will. Yeah, I will.
Okay. So we got Sharon Stone, and then Holly's friend from high school, Caroline, comes in, and she's kind of that stereotypical sorority girl, blonde, peppy. Yeah. And her parents were very controlling and had her whole life planned out for her, but she doesn't want to do what her parents want her to do. Mm-hmm. She wants to, she wants to live her own life, and basically what she wants to do is she wants to own a cupcake shop.
Yeah.
But she works at the bakery downtown. She secretly wants her own cupcake shop. We meet Caroline because while in town, after Holly has gone through the whole interviewing and everything, she goes to different shops around town, basically to pick up her wedding dress.
Yeah.
And then send it to a consignment store.
That's harsh, yeah.
It's tough. And then she goes to the bakery to cancel her her wedding cake and try to get the deposit back, but they don't allow it. But Carolyn gives her some free cupcakes anyway.
That's nice.
So we're starting to meet people slowly after the event. In the meantime, the sheriff is closing down reindeer games. We are not open this season, and that is devastating for the Whites because that's their income.
Oh yeah.
And it's much like the Cider House rules.
Yeah.
That
we don't joke about that. We don't joke about that.
Cider, what was it? Cider
It's
Rock Rules?
Apple Cider Slaying is the name of this book.
So basically, it's seasonal. You know, it's
Okay.
like the Rockettes.
Yeah.
It's high stress, and so Holly's kind of taking it upon herself to make sure that they can at least open up again.
Okay.
She kind of works it out that like a lot of times this is so not possible.
Okay.
But like the hunky sheriff will be there, and she's like, let's go for a walk and talk about this, and she'll lead him away while secretly her parents are like opening up the hearth to have people come in.
I see.
And kind of like still open up.
Okay.
Like they would put, you know,
there'd be some tape. There'd be a deputy probably. A sexy deputy maybe.
Definitely sexy.
Okay.
And there is a deputy. I don't think he is.
He's not there. He's a Barney Fife situation. Okay.
Yeah, definite Barney Fife.
Okay.
So I think that I know what Holly's trying to do because I read the book. And
yeah.
I lived her life for the
You did, yeah.
She's just basically trying to romance him to just prove that they're good people and they can keep it open because this is this is their life.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. More or less, she does romance him. He agrees to keep it open with some conditions that he's basically just always going to be around. Which, darn.
Yeah.
You know, get to see the hunky, broad-shouldered, blue-eyed.
Guess he's going to be there.
Yeah. Dreamboat that he is. So those are the conditions. He's got to be around. He is. We meet some of those characters in the hearth. We meet some of them downtown as she's like doing her business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Basically now that she's got her parents' business running strong, now she's going to get to the bottom of this murder.
Yeah.
Because Margaret Fenwick didn't deserve it, and Holly's she's a do-good kind of gal, and she's dead set on figuring out who this is. So along the way, we meet some people that knew Margaret very well. One of the gals that was at the diner that day that Margaret was murdered is Paula. Can't remember her last name, but she owns the Maple Tree Forest.
Oh,
Maple Tree farm, I guess.
Wow, lumber people. You know what? People. This library was built with lumber. David A. Howe was a lumber baron. So it all kind of comes together. It ties in.
And that's Christmas.
It's a Christmas miracle. Absolutely.
So basically, Paula and Margaret were kind of, I want to say, like Nadine and Granny.
Okay.
A little bit like that.
Yeah.
So that's a good bet, right?
Yeah.
Paula has sort of an ulterior motive. I forgot to mention she did leave before Margaret left the diner, so you know her alibi is not airtight.
Okay.
Holly has a very intense interaction with Paula, and right away she's like, she did it. You know, she's like, this is our gal. This has got to be so. So meanwhile, you get the impression that she has a lot of irons in the fire. Holly.
Okay.
She's a busybody.
Sure.
And people are starting to notice, particularly the sheriff.
Yeah.
He's getting perturbed. He's like, you gotta let me do this.
Wow.
I'm the man.
Wow.
You know, I'm the man. You're the woman.
Yeah.
I do the work.
Yes.
So that's basically the vibe that I get from all the roles in this town, except for Cookie. Cookie runs the show.
She's doing her own thing.
Runs her husband.
Yeah. Okay.
She's the lead of that story. So yeah, we got Paula, we got Cookie, we got Caroline, Mom and Dad, and the sheriff. So then we have a few more characters coming up, but I want to hear more about Blossom Lane.
Well, we're in kind of an expanse of nothing. I feel like the middle of this book is just like one big vamp, because Winnie decides pretty early on that she's still going to do this big holiday festival because they can't afford not to. And she still wants to pursue her apple cider bar, which, again, to be clear, is very much not a thing in real life. So she's still... she's still pushing forward with all of this stuff, and she's really trying to get the heat off Granny, you know, and Granny's trying to as well. So we do some more rounds. Trying to figure out, there's an old farmer Bentley, I want to say, whose property, so Nadine and Granny Smythe's property border each other, and Farmer Bentley is like the other farm, so they all are kind of like in the same zone. And so he was acting kind of weird, and so you're kind of wondering, like, okay, so is this like 70-plus-year-old man behind this somehow? Like, is he trying to get this land for some reason? And you don't really know. So he's kind of like working in the background. It's not really a character, but it keeps coming up. And
works for me. Yeah,
so Winnie is suggesting this to Sheriff Colton Wise, and again, just call him Colton. That's fine. So they're getting closer, but he's like, I don't want to have to worry about you. So you let me do the police work, and you stay out of this, and you just go to college and open your apple bar, you know. And so very similar to your situation.
Same relationship.
So we make the rounds. We take Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton to the vet. The vet offers to buy one of the cars. He was the grandpa's best friend and helped work on the cars. He wants to buy one of the cars, which would solve all of her problems. Not interested. She's not. She's not interested.
Not interested.
She doesn't want to sell the car. No.
It's her car. I thought it was your grandpa's car.
But the grandpa's dead. Grandpa's dead. So. Yeah. She could. We go and we visit Nadine's plastic surgeon, which seems kind of mean to include in the book. You really want to know that the lady who died has had work done, substantial work.
Had it coming.
I guess, yeah. I guess that's what you're led to believe. Well, on the property, Nadine's dead. Nadine's long dead. On the property, Winnie, yes, thank you, is alone, and she's like looking again. She's looking at the old mail pouch barn. She's looking at the trees that are hurt. She's alone in this room, and this big, like, cloaked figure, like, you can't make out who it is, like, runs at her to, like, scare her, like, knock her down and stuff. And it's kind of like a vague warning. Because maybe. There's, like, this vague warning. And then a little later, she's somewhere else, and she gets a note on her car window that just says, like, leave it alone, So the cops are...
This is the same story.
Really? Yeah. So the cops are really, like, kind of zeroing, and they're like, okay, well, obviously your granny is not trying to kill you, so we can kind of rule her out. But something's going down, and the sheriff is very much like, you have to be careful. I couldn't stand for something to happen to you.
Yes.
So that's kind of where we're at this point. She's continuing to look it out. Hank remains sort of a looming figure, the ex-boyfriend with a past who works for the oil company. He's this kind of looming presence, and you don't really know much about him, but it keeps coming up. So you're kind of wondering, like, what is Hank hiding, Meanwhile, Mr. Sherman is very reluctant to give her money for this cider barn, even though she's like, it's just my own thing. You don't have to invest in the cider business. And Granny's like, we can get a surveyor. We can hack off some of the land, and I'll just deed it to her so it's not connected to the other business. All these things that, like, it really is a pretty good bet for the bank to make. And he doesn't want to. He's really, like, dragging his feet. And
who wants to invest in a cider bar?
I know, yeah, a year-round cider bar. But again, do you really have to invest? Because they already own the property, and they already have, like, a business, and they already have several, like, pristine Model Ts, like, in the garage. So do you really need this bank? But
he's not convinced.
And Jake, the hunky junior loan officer, he and Dot seem to be getting a little closer, and he's trying to put in a good word with the older farmer.
Is it bad to say I don't care about that relationship?
No, it's not bad at all. I don't care either. So things amp up a little bit here. So I'm going to tell you this amp up, and then it's going to be a to be continued. Okay. So we've had some issues. The sheriff goes out and is looking for something, and they run into each other, and they end up going to a nice little diner. And the waitress is like, "Oh, what a great place for a date." And she's like, "It's not a date." But then she's also mad that the waitress was hitting on the sheriff, and he's like, "Well, you said it wasn't a date." Anyway, they get back, and the mail pouch barn is on fire. There's a fire. No. So they run out there, and scraped into the floor, it just says strike 2.
Oh, I was going to say you're next.
To be continued. All right, so take me back to Mistletoe, Maine.
I think you basically just explained my book.
Did I? Okay.
I think we're good.
Wow.
No. So Holly just had an interaction with Paula, very curt, very short, very suspicious.
Yeah.
What she said, I can't remember.
Okay.
But basically, it was another control aspect where Margaret was trying to control, I think, the bridge outside of that led up to the tree farm that Paula owned was compromised because of Margaret. And so that just pissed her off.
Yeah.
Okay. Typical small town issues.
Yeah.
So Holly's on her way back, and I forgot I feel like she's walking back at this point, just walking country roads, and this truck stops. And this guy rolls on the window. He's like, "Hey, Holly White, you're back in town." So basically who this guy is, a guy supposedly that went to high school with Holly. He was a freshman when she was a senior, but he had such a crush on her.
Oh, sure,
and now she's back.
Wow.
And she's single, and he's pretty cute.
Yeah.
So here we go. So we got this interaction. He basically is like, "Come get in my car and I'll drive you back." And she's like, "I don't even know you. I'm not going to do that."
That's creepy.
But okay, I will.
Oh, she does. Okay.
Of course.
All right.
So she gets in, and they're chatting, they're catching up. And basically he lives with his mom right now because his dad passed away, and his mom's not doing well now either. So he's basically taking care of her.
Yeah.
but he's still living in town. What are you up to? And she explains, my husband left me for a 20-year-old yoga instructor, or my boyfriend left me for a 20-year-old yoga instructor a couple of weeks before our wedding. So I moved back to Mistletoe, but I never really wanted to leave.
Sure.
I never really wanted to leave here.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be back, all this other stuff. So basically now he's kind of seeing that she's single.
Oh, yeah.
And she's back.
Yeah.
And
she's 30 and flirty.
And 30 and flirty, and he asked her a little bit about like the murder that took place on her parents' farm, and she's like, oh, I don't really want to talk about this, but this is what happened. I found the body. And then something happens where she like moves something, and then a badge falls down. And he is not a badge, but like a lanyard.
Okay.
He is basically the Mistletoe Press.
Oh.
But she basically just gave an interview.
Oh no.
And so now she feels totally betrayed, and like he took advantage of her. And she's like, well, you can't use any of this. He's like, I wouldn't dare. So you're like, is he going to start spreading rumors? Can she trust him? Basically, is where we're at.
Okay.
So he drops her off, and she, of course, went shopping and has all these bags and stuff. And she goes to she's staying at the guest house on the property.
Oh, fancy.
So she unpacks all her stuff, all her goodies, and is because she's going to read The Count of Monte Cristo, and that kind of comes into play quite a bit.
I like that story.
You, Holly, and Sheriff Gray all like that.
All three of us do?
Because she noticed that Sheriff Gray had that, I think, in his car. I think when he had to drive her somewhere. She's getting rides by everybody in
apparently,
town.
Yeah.
And so she was curious as to why he read it. So she's picking that book up. So she's reading, and her cat Cindy Lou Who is on her lap, and I mean it's so Christmassy.
Yeah. It's
that kind of like sweetness. So
let me ask you this, because the Count of Monte Cristo, because the Count of Monte Cristo is really is really a story of revenge. It's about getting revenge on those who have wronged you. Is that a plot point in this book? Is revenge a plot point in what is this book called? 12 Slayings of Christmas.
12 Slayings of Christmas. Is revenge a plot?
Yes.
I guess. Honestly, I didn't know Count of Monte Cristo, so that's good to know. Honestly, it's led to think that, but the payoff ends up not so much. I'd say the payoff of this book is just not so much.
Little.
But that's getting ahead of myself.
Okay.
So let me get to this bit. So she's in her house. She's finally like kind of settled in her new place. She's feeling good.
That's nice, like you. Exactly. A lot of parallels to your current life right now.
Honestly, my parents' Christmas tree farm, it's all coming together.
What's the local sheriff like? Maybe you should look into that.
I'm trying not to find out, honestly.
Yeah, probably for the best.
For many reasons.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Okay.
Now's really not the time to be meeting new people either.
That's true. Yeah. Wear a mask, definitely.
Maybe in a fairy book world.
Yeah.
A fairy tale world, which I feel like we're in Mistletoe.
Yeah.
So she's laying on the couch. She's in this idyllic little area. I think she takes a nap. She's always falling asleep because she works hard. And then she gets up, and she I think she's going to like meet her mom and dad or something. And then she sees in the yard 4 stakes set up. And
somebody was murdered.
House,
yeah.
And they said, you better stop what you're doing.
Wow.
Basically the same sentiment.
Similar.
What was the note that was written on?
One was leave it alone, and one was strike 2.
Basically, leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Strike 2 yet.
Okay.
So she's getting a very clear signal here.
Okay. All right.
So that's where I'll leave off.
My book escalates at this point. A lot of things happen really quick after not many things happening at all. So we've had several incidents now. More and more, Farmer Bentley is really starting to look suspicious, even though nobody really thinks that he's like capable of murder. And again, he's elderly. So
but he's also doesn't he own a lumber yard?
He doesn't own a lumber yard, no, but he owns like the big farm that borders the property of the woman who was murdered and Granny Smythe. So
well, listen, if he can run a farm, he can pick a woman up and throw her in the wood chipper.
That's true. It was an apple press, but your point is well made. He's starting to look more and more suspicious, all right? So that's really where everybody is headed, all right? So something happens, and the sheriff goes out to investigate, and suddenly it's like, yes, it's definitely him. And they go out there, and guess what? Dead.
Oh, the sheriff.
Farmer Bentley, dead. Someone murdered him. He's been murdered.
Are you saying Bentley or Bentley?
Bentley, like a car.
I like that, yeah.
Do you like that? Okay.
A lot of cars playing into this.
You're right. That's true. Yeah. So Winnie's like, all right, well, that was my prime suspect. So, like, now I really don't know what's going on. And I also really want to get this loan for my Apple bar. So, following up with the banker again, and he's like, lady, can we please, and she's like, no, you really have to. Back at the homestead, she starts, like, smelling something, right? It's, like, at night, and she's like, I'm hearing noises, I'm smelling, it's like gasoline. Somebody's riding a four-wheeler around her house, squirting lighter fluid, like, all around the house, okay? And she's like, ah! Inside. So she's calling Sheriff Beefsteak, and she's like, you gotta get out here, somebody's... And he's like, don't go out. Don't you go out there. I can't. Nothing will happen to you. Yeah. So he's driving out there, and he's almost there. Granny, who's really not been much of a player in this book. I'm not going to lie to you. Granny's not been a big part of this.
What's she been up to?
Granny goes out in her house coat with her shotgun, who's named Bess, and is threatening this person on the four-wheeler. And she's got him. She's got him, like, held. And Winnie on the phone to Colton, call him Colton, he's a sheriff. She's like, should I go out there and help Granny? And he's like, no, you can't risk yourself. I can see your house. I'm almost there. So he comes around the corner. The headlights come. Granny looks at the headlights. Four-wheeler guy revs it up and drives the four-wheeler right into Granny.
What?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Does she go flying?
She does. She really does. And so he takes off. Winnie's running over, and she's like, it's all my fault. I was asking too many questions. She gets to Granny. Colton does not go after the murderer. He comes and is like, he's the sheriff, yeah. He comes and he's like, I can't, nothing, I need to protect you. And she's like, why didn't you go after the guy? And he's like, you're my first priority. Because they love each other, And I guess maybe I should stop there because I'm pretty much at the ending now.
Oh, man.
I'm close. Okay. All right.
Well, I would hope so if Granny took a tumble.
She did, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I can't stand it. So.
I know.
All right. So we got the stakes, and then Holly freaks out. Her mom and dad, like, call her over. She's like, you have to stay at our house. It's too dangerous over there, like, 20 feet away at this guest house. They're really concerned for her. Obviously, the sheriff is also very disappointed.
Yeah.
Not disappointed, but wants to protect her.
Sure.
And also disappointed because she's been a bit of a busybody. So basically, they inspect the area. They can't figure anything out. We're just letting that one. We're letting that one slide. There will be another offense, I'm sure.
Yeah.
She decides to do some sleuthing while they kind of investigate that. She's always like, it's kind of that same thing. Like, something terrible happens to Winnie, and then she's like, but my loan, Like,
yeah,
she's
right. Yeah, she's got the other thing. Yeah, she does.
Yeah, we got to keep going. I forgot how she gets into this, but she decides, like, okay, well, while I have the time, I might as well Google. So she's like, so she's researching, like, historical society, like, preservation of this town, their website. She's, she sees Margaret on the website, and then she sees, like, all the things that the town has done. Like, they restored the windmill recently, thanks to a grant from this other historical preservation society out in California. Like, exact opposite, of course, for whatever reason. So she's like, okay. So there's obviously grant money coming. Again, with grant money.
Yeah, you need it. You have to have it for that business.
For any of these stories.
Yeah.
So she calls this historical society, and she's basically like, oh, I'm going to pretend to be from the Mistletoe.
Good idea.
She's kind of bad at lying. She flubs it up a little bit, but she gets through it. And then basically they give her the information that that they gave the loan money for the windmill, but they couldn't grant the other loan that was requested for the town. So she's like, okay, well, they were requesting two loans from the same place, and it just seems to be like a bit of miscommunication.
Right, yeah.
So basically her next thing is like, well, I'm just going to go down to the Historical Society and see what's going on down there. So she goes down, she meets this character, oh gosh, what was his last name?
Beau Waddell?
It's Beau Waddell. So she meets Beau Waddell, and he's moved into Margaret Fenwick's office.
Okay.
He's like already taken over. And he's like, hey, it's my spot. I work here now. I'm moving on up.
Okay.
So
that's gonna be stuck in my head all week.
So basically they have she has some questions, he doesn't answer, and it's a dead end there. She's not getting any information from him. In fact, he's going out of town. So he won't be able to he won't be able to cater to her needs anymore.
Of course not.
So that's very suspicious, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you
it
have this
is.
guy that's kind of taken over her office and all of a sudden going to go out of town during an investigation. So basically Holly's like, okay, I'm going to leave this project now. Now we got to get ready for reindeer games. So now she has to help her parents set up for all these games. And basically it's like one night's bingo.
Sure.
With like a holiday edge. One night is building and decorating gingerbread houses.
Yes.
And then there's like a sleigh ride competition. Who Cookie enters Holly and Sheriff Gray in. And they end up going on a sleigh ride together. Very romantic.
Oh, that is romantic,
Their bodies are pressed up against each other.
Well, they have to be. You got to keep warm.
Right. And then this leads to the next moment that she goes, all right, everything's fine. I'm going to go back to my house.
Right.
So she goes back to the guest house. She's been working a lot and she's tired again. She's going to take a nap.
All right.
She's going to go to dinner with her mom and dad later that night, but she just wants to take a quick nap. And then she's dreaming that there's this blizzard and she's getting blown away and the cat is like clinging to her and she's just trying to fight for it. Like it could be a metaphor for everything, right? So she wakes up and she's freezing.
Right.
And she's like, okay, well, I guess I wasn't dreaming this, but it's actually freezing.
Okay.
And she looks around and every window in her house is open, including the door, and every like cold air is rushing in.
Okay.
And then she finds a matchbox on the windowsill with like a sign hanging down from it. Not the windowsill, but the mantle.
Yeah.
So she reads the sign and it says, "I mean it," or something like that, or like it's so anticlimactic.
Okay, I mean it. Like, I mean it.
Yeah, like back off. I mean it.
This is your strike two moment.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is the strike two moment.
All right. So Granny is in the hospital. Winnie is still like, we are doing this holiday festival. We don't have a choice. We need the money. We're doing this holiday festival. And gosh darn it if I'm not going to open my apple cider bar. But she starts looking in more to Farmer Bentley, who, as it turns out, had been buying up a lot of property. And so, like, that's weird. And so then she starts thinking about the oil company and Hank, and like maybe the oil company was interested in the property. Maybe there was like something going on with that. We don't really know. Okay, we're not really sure what's going on here. Winnie gets a call from Mr. Sherman, the banker, who is like, look, I just want to close this. So why don't you just come in? And she pretty much knows that he's going to turn her down. So she's like, how about instead, after work, you come to the big Christmas festival and you'll see how everything is and how great it is and everything like that. And he's like, okay, fine. I'll come to the big festival. Cut to the day of the festival, right? Everybody's there. Mr. Sherman, Hank, Colton, the sheriff, Dot, and Jake, who are very much a thing at this point, are all at the festival. I know you were rooting for them. Winnie has to go out to get something else. She heads that way just as she starts to put some things together when there's a gun pointed at her head. And guess who it is? Yeah.
Granny.
You think it's Granny? Granny's still in the hospital.
Yeah.
It's not Granny.
It couldn't be Dot.
No, it's not Dot.
Is it the farmer?
Dead.
I know, but maybe he's not really dead.
No, he's really dead.
Plastic surgeon?
No, it's not the plastic surgeon.
I have no idea.
It's the banker.
Oh my God.
It was Mr. Sherman the whole time.
That was my initial reaction. I don't know why I didn't remember him.
I know, yeah, you got away from it. It was not my initial reaction. I was not there when this big reveal happened. So, of course, he ties her to a chair and he has like the supervillain monologue, when basically what was going down this whole time was that the oil company is like putting the heat on Mr. Sherman to sort of use his inside banking knowledge to find out like what properties they could get at a good price. And they're kind of blackmailing him, and they're kind of saying he'll have a payout because apparently he has a massive gambling debt, which has never been introduced in the entirety of the narrative that Mr. Sherman has he's never had a personal life. There's never been anything about this man other than he's a banker and he doesn't want to give her the loan, right? So all of this is completely new information. So she's like, so what does this have to do with Nadine? Well, Farmer Bentley kind of figured this out, right? And he had warned Nadine that this was happening. And Farmer Bentley had been buying up the properties. He basically liquidated his life savings to buy up these properties and keep them out of like the big corporation's hands. He warns Nadine about this, who was on her way to warn Granny about this, when the banker, who was there originally, remember he was there in the beginning, right, because he was doing the tour, runs into her, tries to talk her out of it, kills her, hides her in the apple press, right?
The apple press.
And then Bentley sort of gets wise to what's going on, and I think he kind of figures out that there's some shady dealings, and so Mr. Sherman also has to kill Farmer Bentley to keep this a secret. So it's
Bentley's the reason that she died.
Right, yeah.
He should die first.
I know. So the whole thing, I know, and she was going to warn Granny, who was her mortal enemy.
Well, good thing she didn't, because then Granny would have been killed.
I know, you're right. You're absolutely right. So the thing is, there was never any indication that Mr. Sherman was even really a character. He was just like a one-dimensional thing. So the fact that suddenly he's like a desperate man with gambling debts to the wrong people, willing to do anything to, clear his name, it was just like, what?
Yeah, but he's the banker and the curmudgeon, and he's already the villain.
Yes.
So it's like, we might as well make him the killer.
Now here's where it wins me back a little bit, okay? Because Winnie is tied to the chair in this barn, and they had to really like clean everything up. So there's a big like overhead storage compartment, and it's like packed to the brim, and it's braced up, so everything's out of sight, out of mind. She is tied to a chair, right? And he's finished his monologue, and he's like, and now I'm going to kill you. Gun on her, right? Who should appear in the door? Beau, I promise you will never guess who's going to appear in this door. Would you like to take a guess?
Could it be Colton, the sheriff?
See, you thought I was being sarcastic, but you really will never guess who shows up, because it is the premature kitten, Dolly Parton. Shows up in the door, sees what's going on, launches her tiny hot dog bun-sized body at the banker, and while he's distracted, Winnie smashes her head into the brace that's holding up the supplies and brings the whole thing crashing down on both of them, and she is out for the count.
Oh, no.
But, the sexy sheriff doesn't come in and save her. Like, she figures it out and saves herself, which I actually thought was pretty progressive for the tenor of this novel overall.
Yeah, that's true, actually, considering he's been putting her down a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Holding her back. Yeah.
So, should I save the button? Do you want to do a little bit more of yours?
Yeah, save the button.
I'll save it.
And I also want to hear about those recipes.
I'll tell you about them. I will tell you about them.
We have more to get to.
We do.
Okay, so she gets her second warning, and then now enough's enough. Like, you cannot stay at this house anymore. Like, everyone's angry. Sheriff Gray's like, I've been telling you, I've been trying to control you and win you over, and now you're staying at your mom and dad. I'm going to parole all the time. You're going to have like complete security detail. So basically, this is it. And she's like, okay, I get it. She's like, but I'm going to go back to the Historical Society one more time.
Just one more time.
And so she goes back. Oh, the reason she goes back is because her mom has something that she needs to actually deliver there this time. I'm sorry. So her mom had a hat from this guy, Mr. Nettle, who's another person that works at the Historical Society. So she goes back there, and she's like, I'm going to go back and maybe ask a little bit more about, was it Beau
Waddell?
Beau Waddell.
Mr. Beau Waddell. Paging Beau Waddell.
I'm going to ask about Mr. Beau Waddell.
Yeah.
So basically she gets there.
You sounded like Rue. When you said that, you sounded like Rue McClanahan. You have the hair and you sounded like it as well.
I do declare.
Yeah.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Really?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So we get to the Historical Society, and this really weird moment occurs where she gets there, and she's basically like ringing the bell. No, the Historical Society is more or less, for all intents and purposes, like closed because it's the holidays.
Sure.
But there's one lone secretary there, and she's like ringing the bell, and this woman comes up, and she's all flushed and like disheveled and stuff, and was clearly canoodling with Mr. Nettle.
Yeah.
So basically, she's like, I have Mr. Nettle's hat. He left it at the hearth when he was here for the reindeer games, blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, I'll get it back to him. And then she's like, what's up with Beau Waddell?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't know what you mean. She's like, why did he take over Margaret's place so willingly and shoot stuff? And she's like,
that is suspicious.
He's young and he's like eager and he's just
young and hungry.
There's a lot of respect or whatever with Margaret's position, but he's just moving up in the ranks or whatever. So she's like, did you know anything about this loan or the grant from the Historical Society that they were in touch with in California? And she was like, so basically, they allowed the restoration of the windmill.
Sure, you have
and
to.
then Margaret wanted this another grant for the bridge that was gonna that was a big thorn in Paula's side.
Yeah.
So basically that's what we find out from there. So fast forward, a lot of flirting between Sheriff Gray, a lot of torment over this is the time of year she's supposed to get married.
Yeah, a real will they with these two, right?
Wink, wink. One moment that I do have to get into that was like particularly interesting was when we were back at the hearth and it's one of the reindeer game events. And remember the character of Ray, the high school-ish, sweetheart-ish.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Press reporter.
Yeah.
So we get into the booth, and he has his mother there, who he lives with, and he's kind of taken care of, and the aunts. And his mother's name is May.
Okay.
And the sisters' names are...
It's a lot of information.
Ruby Ray and Soleil or something. Like, they all rhyme, you know? So we have May, Ruby Ray, and Soleil. Like, and then there's Ray and his sister Kay.
Okay.
And so Holly's getting all this information. It's cute. And
hey,
then,
I just have to point out to our listeners that you and your brother's names do rhyme. I feel like we need to have that on record.
No, they don't.
Beau, Joe.
Beau and Joey.
I think you got a rhyming sibling situation happening. And you're so much alike. That's the other thing.
Couldn't be more accurate.
Bookends.
So then, Holly's laughing her face off. She's like, oh, you're so funny. I didn't know you were so funny. And then he's like, and you know what? I dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
I could have been named after my uncle Gay.
Huh.
And I was like, well, what is this homophobic edge that this author threw in there?
Yeah,
like, that's really necessary.
That's an interesting twist. She just had to get it in.
She's laughing even harder. And
sure.
I was like, was this necessary? So that kind of got me right away.
Yeah, understood.
As far as the tone, I felt like it was very, very Hallmarky, especially in that moment. I was like, all right. I guess that was okay in 2015.
Right. 2015. Okay, I thought you were going to say 1999.
Well, it feels like it.
Okay.
So basically, she returned the hat to Mr. Nettle. She learned that information, and we're zooming up to Christmas Eve, which is like the big snowball event that everybody looks forward to.
Yes.
And what this is, it's called the Snowball Roll, and you have to start at the top of a hill, and you start with a little snowball, and you gotta roll it down the hill, and you have to I think it has to grow in size.
Okay.
Kind of like a big snowball, and you're basically pushing a boulder to the finish end.
I see.
To the finish line.
That sounds fun.
And she wins every year,
mm-hmm.
supposedly. But this year, Sheriff Gray is also entered, and she wants to try and outrun him. It goes really awry, and she ends up tumbling to the finish line and basically breaking both her legs.
Whoa.
Not really breaking them, but spraining her ankle.
Yeah, still.
So basically now
pretty serious.
It's Eve and she's out of commission.
Yeah.
So that night there is this kind of, it's almost like a candlelight vigil, but it's the Christmas tree lighting downtown.
Okay.
But they're making it in honor of Margaret.
I see. Well, that's
nice.
And
she really wants to go, but she's just not feeling great.
No.
She's had so many scares.
Sprained her ankle or whatever.
Sprained her ankle. She's been pushing it too much.
Yeah.
She's been skating like crazy.
Yeah.
So she stays home, and everyone's going to this vigil. She had a really flirty moment where the sheriff, she calls, in her defense, she always refers to him as Sheriff Gray.
Well, see, that's appropriate. Yeah.
And that's how it should be.
I agree.
And so much so that I don't even remember his real name. So I think it's Derek.
Really? Is it?
One of those hunky Hallmark names.
Evan Gray. It's Sheriff Evan Gray. Yep.
Oh, thank you. Is that in the description?
It is, yeah.
Huh. And meanwhile, Ray and Evan have this. They have some friction. They have some cold friction. Because obviously they both want Holly.
Stay in your own book, please.
I don't know where I am.
I don't either.
So we're on Christmas Eve. We're at Christmas Eve, and she's home alone. Her parents are like, we're just going to go for a little while. We're going to leave you, even though the murder's on the loose. We're going to leave you and go to the, we're going to go to we're going to go to the vigil.
It's the holidays. Yeah. Get out there.
Holiday. Don't get in my way here.
No.
But she does have a deputy. She has the deputy, what did we say? Barney Rubble?
Barney Fife. Barney Fife
from
The Andy Griffith Show. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically we have Barney Fife watching out for her, and he kind of
comforting.
He rounds he does he patrols the premises, and he's always here and there, and she never knows where he is.
I see. Very Barney Fife when you think about it.
She's starting to get skeptical. She's like, who is this guy? I don't know him. We were never formally introduced. And she's going to the window, and then all of a sudden she sees somebody appearing at the front, at the window, knocking at, trying to get her attention.
Yes.
And you guess who it is?
Who? Is it Kenny Rogers, the premature kitten?
It's not the other cat.
Okay. Then I don't know.
It's Mr. Nettle, who lost his hat.
What?
I know, and he's knocking on the window because he's like, I have to talk to you right now. I ran into your parents in the square and they said you weren't going to be there, and I just really want to give you this information about the Historical Society. I know you were asking about Beau Hutchings.
Oh my gosh.
So she's like, oh my God, of course, come in. And she's like, I'm making hot chocolate. They're never not making hot chocolate.
No, of course
They're
not.
never not drinking tea.
It's the holidays, like I said.
This is how hallmarky it is. It's like when she's feeling sassy, she'll put like a little bit of schnapps in her tea.
Oh!
I hated it after that second murder.
Kitty's got claws. Look out.
So, but she's totally sober this night. She just has broken ankles.
That's good. Well.
So basically, he's trying to inform her about Beau Hutchings and this grant opportunity that he tried to interfere, and she's like, something's not adding up here.
No.
And she's starting to get like the hairs in the back of her neck.
Yeah, well, she just let a murderer into her house, so obviously you got to be.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
so basically, she's trying to like get out of the situation and not try to hear him. And so she's because he's getting really nice and cozy on the couch, and she's like, this is just feeling wrong. So basically, she books it towards the door. She's like, I'm getting to get out of here, and she trips down the stairs, and right before her is Sheriff, a deputy, Barney Fife.
Barney Fife, okay.
And he's laying with blood coming out. Somewhere.
Whoa! Was he in an apple press? Did they have an apple press in that basement?
No, he wasn't squished.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, he was just bludgeoned or shot, unclear.
With a stake,
but
maybe.
She just knows that. But she sees his chest moving.
Oh, he's okay.
Yeah, we think.
Okay.
So basically, here we have it. He's finally like, get back in this house now. Let's get this over with nice and quick. And I'll even let you write the suicide note or something like that.
Well, that's
so
nice.
He's going to frame it. So in this whole convoluted finale, we find out essentially he wanted to interfere with this grant coming from the Historical Society in California and try and intercept it, and because he was in a lot of debt too, which was
gambling.
Because this is also
was it gambling?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
He's also a very one-dimensional character, and Margaret was made very aware of this, and so now it was kind of the Nadine. Factor.
Okay.
I must end you.
Yes. Wow.
So basically, he's trying to steal grant money. She interfered, and now she's done. So now you think, okay, so now he killed Margaret and he killed the deputy. Just very strange occurrences. Like there's so many other characters that could have gone.
Right.
They go through this big fight. She has her phone with her, so she's able to call call Sheriff.
Sheriff.
She's like whispering, "Help me!
Get here quick! Hurry!"
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And wear something tight. It's like so she's able to like still get out enough, and she can feel him like breathing on her neck at one time, like just like guarding all around the Christmas tree, like all around the forest and stuff. And so she basically has 2 broken ankles, and then she remembers there's this hole in the ground that as a child she used to run over, and it's basically a well.
Okay.
To see if she could run and make it over. And if she didn't, there was enough branches down there to hold her and she could climb out. But she knew that if she didn't make it into the hole, if she made it into the hole this time, she wouldn't be able to get out, and he would leave her for dead. Because
right, yeah.
Like, with her last amount of adrenaline, she takes the 1, 2, 3, jumps over the hole, and he doesn't know it's there, so he runs after her and he lands in the hole.
Jeez. Wait. She does like a big run, jump, land on 2 broken ankles?
I know.
Holy.
They're not broken, they're sprained.
Still, they're probably broken now.
Well, she said that she keeps thinking in her head, she's like, I feel like my legs are broken. I'm going to die of hypothermia, but I have to do this last feat. So by the time she gets there, she basically passes out. He's contained. He can't get out because there's a big storm, and it's enough to contain him. And she basically wakes up. She's on a gurney. Sheriff Gray came to the rescue. Her parents are eventually notified, and she makes it to the hospital. And then when she does finally wake up, she's in her own bed at home on Christmas morning.
Aww. And
do you want me to tie this up?
Let me give you my end. Let me give you my end because it's very similar. So everybody comes rushing to where, remember, because the ceilings just collapsed, and the banker and the kitten Dolly Parton and Winnie are all right there. We learn very quickly that nothing happened to the kittens. They're fine. Winnie is fine, sort of. She has a concussion. She's not in great shape because she basically smashed her head into a giant wooden pole while a tiny cat, scratched the banker's face off. And everybody's real excited. Granny's still in the hospital. But by Christmas Day, everybody's out of the hospital. We're back together. The Christmas gala goes off. It proves the success of the business. Winnie's going to get, I mean, Mr. Sherman obviously is not holding the purse strings anymore. You know, he's in prison at this point. Well, actually, probably the trial's going to take a while, but he is.
Does he have a fierce scar on his face, though?
He must, yeah, which would help him in prison, I would think. But he's out of the picture, and so it's probably going to fall to Jake now to decide the loan, and Jake's already in the bag for these cider-loving people. So Winnie's going to get her cider shop. She does finally decide to sell one of Grampy's classic cars, which would have saved us a whole lot of trouble if she would have done that in the first place. Some wink with Colton, but I think we're saving the romance for book 2. And that's a wrap on Cider House slaying pulp fiction. What's it called? Apple cider slaying.
No kissy?
Well, I don't think we do get a kiss. No, I don't think so. Yeah,
well,
sorry.
We have to tune in for the next book.
You do. You have to. Pulp Fiction.
Ours basically ends. Mine basically ends exactly the same. She wakes up. She goes downstairs. There's basically a big banquet for her with all the people in town who are waiting for her to arrive.
Very similar.
She starts clapping when she gets up. Her ankles are no longer broken.
Oh, good.
She's able to walk down.
What a turnaround that was. Great.
One night. She just needed a good night's rest.
Yeah, you just needed to sleep that off.
Yeah, so we find out that Cookie, the Rockette, invested in Caroline's baked good company. So now she gets to have her own company. She brings all the goodies. And then Sheriff Gray shows up, and where are they standing? Under the mistletoe. In mistletoe.
In mistletoe. Wow, that's Inception.
And the last pages, he leans down and presses his lips to mine. The end.
All right, Beau. Now, you're going to need 1 dozen apples in a variety of flavors. You're going to need 2 large oranges. Are you writing this down? 1 lemon, grab a pencil, 4 cinnamon sticks, 3 teaspoons of whole cloves, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. That's going to give it a nice kick. Half a cup of brown sugar, half a cup of white sugar. And you're off with, that's how you get started with this cider recipe. Winnie's slow cooking, and you know there's no G on the end of that cooking. Winnie's slow cooking cider. Merry Christmas. Was this Christmassy enough for you?
Very.
Okay. All right. I feel like mine was largely not Christmassy because it picks up like they're all
on Black Friday.
Yeah, it starts like the day after Thanksgiving, and it's all sort of it's all this period between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So it kind of starts Black Friday and really ends on Christmas. And we're talking about the Christmas festival, but it never really gets Christmassy until like the last couple of pages. So
the Christmas ball or whatever.
Yeah, the Christmas. What is it called again? The first annual Christmas at the Orchard. It workshopped the name a little bit, but that's
working title.
That's where it ends up. Are you going to be checking out book 2 of Santa's slaying reindeer? What's it called?
12 Sleighs of Christmas.
12 Sleighs of Christmas. Yes.
Probably not.
You're not going to do it? Just for our listeners, the sequel is called 'Twas the Knife Before Christmas.
Oh, that's the one. That was the one I was between.
Yeah.
Between these two.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So maybe I will, actually.
Maybe. There's always next year. Mine picks up in Pulp Friction, so if you want to know what happens with Winnie and Granny and Colton, and Dot and Jake and the kittens, of course, you can find them all in Pulp Friction. How do you rate this with the 3 you've read so far?
I give it. Against the 3.
Yeah, which of the 3 that you've read?
Most
Christmassy.
It felt a little too long.
Okay.
But I think I give it 8 candy canes, which is more than I gave the other 2.
Wow, that's a lot of candy canes. Mine, I feel like, is actually pretty well written, I feel like, for the most part. But I think structurally is where some of the problems happen. Because you don't, like, I think you over-personalize characters like the vet and the hiking guide and the plastic surgeon, but you underdevelop characters like Mr. Sherman and Granny, who are really just sort of like non-entities. So I think because of that imbalance, you spend a lot of time feeling like the story's not really moving at all. And then things get like crazy violent and happen, but like you're not really invested in the characters involved because they've really just been kind of tucked away, probably to like preserve the mystery, so you're not thinking about them too much. But I think it just kind of leaves you hanging in the center, so by the time you get to the end, it feels kind of forced.
I'd say structurally this book is a little off too. I'd say content-wise, as far as like if you want a good dose of Christmas cheer, you're gonna get it. I mean, it's very super sweet. It's like, that Hallmark factor for sure. But I think that most of the characters are pretty well developed, except for the guy who ends up being the killer.
Mm.
I mean, there really is that thing where it's just like they totally underplay that character. They think if they don't develop them at all, then we won't ever suspect them. So
like Agatha Christie used that quite often, like that method where like you don't really get enough information until suddenly like there's a big reveal at the end. But I mean, she knew what she was doing, and I feel like maybe these people don't as much. So,
maybe they aspire to that, yeah.
It's not the worst book I read, and honestly, I was pretty in it for most of the time, but I feel like my book last year, The 9 Lives of Christmas, like beat for beat, that is locked into my head. This book, I feel like it took me forever to read, and as I was like sitting down to like, oh, we have to discuss this in detail, I was really sort of like, so what did the oil people do? Like, what's the order? Like, it just I didn't retain it as much as I had the others. So maybe that's the pandemic, but.
How did you choose that book?
Well, every year I want to read like a Christmas donut book, like a donut shop Christmas mystery. And there aren't any. So then that got me, I feel like I was searching for like Christmas donut, like bookshop mystery. And I got to this cider thing. And there was just a couple of cats, like, opening an apple bag on the front in a sleigh. And again, none of that matters. But that's how the cider, I think, is really what got me. I went from donuts to cider.
Would you ever go to a cider bar?
Year-round, probably not. Like, am I going to a cider bar in March? I don't think so. If it was in that hot spot of post-Thanksgiving, yeah, I'd kick back a couple of these hot vanilla ciders. Why not? You want to go?
Cake? No.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I feel like this for me, doing this Christmas book club with you is essentially this equivalent to Santa Claus showing up at the end of the Macy's Day Parade. By the way, what the heck was that this year? Did you watch the Macy's Day Parade?
Yeah, it seemed like they had more space.
It was like pure nonsense. Like half of it was a video game and half of it was like Mario Lopez having domestic problems. Like,
I loved watching Al Roker just riff though.
Okay.
So fun.
One time I was in New York City with my grandpa and we were outside of the Today Show and Al Roker came barreling out. This was pre-gastric bypass. This was big Al Roker. Just came barreling out and we like had to press up against the wall. But he high-fived my grandpa and kept running. I don't know where he was going. But
was this before or after you walked out of Cabaret?
It was the same trip. It was in fact the same trip. And I want to say that it was before because spirits were much higher. I would have stayed at Cabaret, but it was too sexual for my grandparents.
Understandable.
Much too sexual.
Alan Cumming is shocking.
We were so close. We were like at the front table. I'm sure the whole Cabaret cast, Alan Cummings included, were like, what were those people? Why did they leave the front table in the 5 seconds of the opening? I think I ruined some nights, I think, for the cast of Cabaret in the year 2000.
No, not as much as Shia LaBeouf. Did you hear about that?
Hollywood superstar Shia LaBeouf? What did he do?
He was probably in that same seat in the front row of Cabaret. He was able to add one of the Cabaret tables, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like a few tables for some special guests or people that get, last minute tickets. And he was like smoking a cigarette and laughing and kind of, catcalling and just getting really rowdy. And they had to escort him out.
Wow.
I don't know if Alan Cumming did, but
it was not the same night. It was maybe a different night for me. I think I'd remember, a gregarious Shia LaBeouf sitting next to me. I don't think I'd easily forget that.
You would. Yeah.
Well, all that to say the Christmas season has begun, so I thank you for taking this return journey, even though it has to be remote because of the dumb world that we have right now.
Well, that's in my contract.
Oh, that's right. I did read through all of that. It was extensive. And covered a lot of things that I didn't think were relevant. But yeah, again, I thank you for your time. At the library, our Christmas book club is currently reading Robert B. Parker's Silent Night. It's the last Robert B. Parker Spencer novel. It's Christmassy, so we're going to be talking about that in the coming weeks. So you can check out a copy at the library and read along with us and just send us your comments. David A. Howe Public Library on Facebook or D.A. Howe Library on Twitter. We were talking about Christmas books we didn't like. In the next regular episode of this podcast, I have a special interview with Melody Carlson, who has written lots of Christmas books that I do like. So we're going to be talking about her new release this year, The Christmas Swap, where two families swap houses for Christmas. So that's coming up on the next episode of How's Things. Beau, thanks again for joining me.
Thanks, Nick. Bye, everybody.
All right, that's going to do it for this week on How's Things. We'll see you next time. Good run through. I'm just going to hit record.